Our next speaker is Tyler Valdes. Tyler has a Bachelor's of Science in Earth System Science from the University of California, Irvine. And he, while here, worked as an intern at the Port of San Diego, and for at least 2 years before that as the program coordinator at UC Irvine Sustainability Resource Center. And I think he was the first person ever in that job, so it's kind of his job. And he's really taken an interest also in communication and engagement of issues related to sustainability, and has a really strong working knowledge of the carbon neutrality initiative here at UC. So it's my pleasure to introduce Tyler. The floor is yours.
All right, sorry about that. Thank you, Corey, for that introduction. I'm very excited to be here today, and I'm very proud to be sharing this virtual platform with my cohort, who all worked so hard during this year. My name is Tyler, and I focused my project on managing and improving UCSD's Sustainability Ambassadors Program. And so I'd like to begin by sharing my motivations and background for this project, starting with a story of how I got to where I am today and why I did this project. So since I was young, I was always passionate about the environment and loved the nature, especially growing up in a large family where our most affordable trips were to places like the park or botanical gardens. Then during high school, I took AP Environmental Science, where I had the opportunity to travel to the Galapagos Islands on an educational eco tour. And after a year of saving and fundraising, I participated in the trip and went abroad for the first time in my life. The trip was life-changing as I got to explore pristine habitats and encounter rare species like the giant tortoise and the blue-footed booby that you can see here. Being exposed to all this biodiversity had left me enchanted and really sparked what was to become my lifelong passion for sustainability. So in order to develop my understanding of the physical environment and climate that supported such biodiversity, I pursued a Bachelor's of Science in Earth System Science at UC Irvine, where I sought out any and every opportunity to learn more about sustainability and became involved with a wide variety of organizations, as you can see here. Through all my studies, I realized that there's so much solid science supporting the protection of our climate and natural resources. However, there were consistently political and cultural barriers to achieving climate stability and overall sustainability. Therefore, I decided to study environmental policy and analysis abroad in New Zealand, where, as you can see, I also had a lot of fun. Upon returning home to California and graduating, I worked with several nonprofits in the fields of outdoor education, habitat conservation, environmental justice, which included the Reserve at Rancho Mission Viejo, the Ocean Institute, and Sustainable Claremont. And then at the beginning of 2019, I began working at UCI Sustainability Resource Center, where I coordinated collaborative programming and supervised student projects such as Outreach for the Full Campus Challenge 2.0 and managing community gardens. During my third month on the job, student leaders spearheaded a climate action march that was a part of a larger global movement, which was demanding action from leaders with decision-making power. And so inspired by climate youth activists on my campus and around the world and wanting to fill the gaps in my own knowledge about climate policy, I pursued the Climate Science and Policy program at Scripps. Soon I began my original capstone project while interning with the Port of San Diego's Energy and Sustainability team, and it focused on port stakeholder engagement with sea level rise adaptation. Unfortunately, I had to pivot my project as the port faced internship. They closed their internship program in face of budgetary constraints caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I had to quickly transition my capstone project to align with a fellowship I had been completing on campus and centered it on remotely educating and engaging students with UC climate initiatives. A major climate initiative was launched in 2013 when UC President Janet Napolitano announced the Carbon Neutrality Initiative, also known as CNI, which commits all 10 UC campuses to emit net zero greenhouse gas emissions from its operations, including buildings, electricity purchases, and vehicle fleet by 2025. The three documents I list here were influenced by CNI and include the UCSD Climate Action Plan, also known as the CAP for short, the UC Bending the Curve Report, and the Strategic Communication to Achieve Carbon Neutrality within the UC Report. These three resources became the guiding documents for my capstone project. Particularly, the Bending the Curve Report calls for fostering a global culture of climate action through coordinated communication and education. The StratCom report calls for a periodic assessment of campus attitudes and behaviors related to CNI, and the UCSD CAP calls for behavior change and personal actions that reduce energy consumption. And founded in 2016, the Sustainability Ambassadors Program became a registered student organization that aims to raise awareness of CNI and UCSD's carbon neutrality efforts while encouraging students to implement sustainable living methods. Volunteer ambassadors work under the direction of the CNI Student Engagement Fellow, a position I served during the 2019-20 academic year. And during fall quarter, I recruited 3 amazing ambassadors and trained them through discussion-based seminars to enhance their literacy on climate change impacts and solutions so that they can begin educating and engaging the campus community in the winter and spring quarters. And so now I'd like to share some of the education and engagement strategies we utilized over the past several months in order to carry out our mission. So before switching to online learning, the ambassadors hosted presentations and workshops. I updated the content of both as we delivered them during the winter quarter. We also utilized social media as I created our first Instagram account to promote projects and events, share updates on CNI, repost climate change memes, host photo contests, and share energy saving tips. I aim to create visually engaging content that provides information, but also incites action from our followers. I also created a website for the Sustainability Ambassadors that serves as a virtual home for the organization and provides avenues for ambassadors to carry out the program's mission, such as presentation workshop request form, a link to an online CNI training, a contact form, and events page. I also started a blog called Climate Conversations with the vision that it could become an online forum for discussion and campus climate initiatives and amplify student voices. Moreover, I moderated the first ever virtual live Q&A with 5 sustainability professionals as part of UCSD's 5th annual Green Talks event, which educates and engages the campus community on various sustainability issues and inspires action towards addressing the climate crisis. I co-directed the event this year and helped lead the transition to online platforms in collaboration with the UCSD Inner Sustainability Council and the Sustainability Ambassadors. Lastly, I created an online CNI training that provides a high-level overview of climate change causes and impacts, carbon neutrality and carbon offsets, UCSD's CAP, campus energy solution highlights, and energy conservation tips. Additionally, I included a brief mandatory survey with optional free response questions as I saw the opportunity to capture students' attitudes and beliefs regarding climate change and how UCSD was addressing it. Here you can see we had a diverse range of academic levels and backgrounds of students who participated in the training. And so now I'd like to share some highlights from the survey results. So students were asked before and after the training to rank their level of understanding of climate change and carbon neutrality on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being little to no knowledge and 5 being very knowledgeable. As you can see, there was a clear shift towards the very knowledgeable side of the spectrum, so thankfully they did find it informative. The following results are from questions that were only asked after the training. So here you can see that a majority of students that completed the survey felt that they understand the causes of climate change, what UCSD is doing to address it, and their own actions, and that their own actions can help solve it. Also, you can see which climate and energy initiatives I highlighted in my training were the most known or unknown among survey participants. CNI and the UCSD CAP were the most known by a majority of students, while the other initiatives were not well known before the training. Here you can see which communication channels were the most effective at informing students about the training and which are the most preferred by survey participants. And so the results clearly indicate that social media as well as emails are the top methods. A 2008 study by the Yale Program on Climate Change Communication identified 6 unique audiences among American adults that each respond to climate change and engage with the issue in their own way. So I asked students which audience they identified with the most and provided a link to the Yale program's website. An overwhelming majority identified as alarmed or concerned with climate change, which indicates that they're most likely to believe in global warming, are the most concerned with it, and are the most motivated to do something with it. I also provided optional free response questions on what students want to see UCSD do for climate action and what they would like to learn more about. I attempted to visualize these responses in these word clouds, which include student feedback such as wanting to see UCSD improve access and efficiency of alternative modes of transportation, to wanting to learn more about agricultural emissions and sustainable food options. I also asked students to rank their optimism towards the 2025 carbon neutrality goal from 1 to 5, with 1 being very pessimistic and 5 being very optimistic. Here you can see that there was a lot of neutrality about carbon neutrality, as over a third of respondents selected 3, but overall a majority of respondents were feeling actually optimistic. Inspired by the City of San Diego's CAP survey, I asked students which benefits of climate action do they find the most important, and the top 3 benefits included improved natural environment, improved air quality, and personal health and well-being of loved ones. And so now it's your turn. Considering my capstone was focused on education and engagement, I would like to engage all of you in the audience with this question. So what action or actions are you most committed to doing to conserve energy, whether it be at home or on campus? So go ahead, take a few seconds to write your comment in the chat. Hopefully by sharing our energy conserving practices with each other, we can be inspired to continue what we're doing or even try new actions. So as you all submit your comments in the chat, I'd like to show you how student participants responded in my survey. So here you can see that the most popular action students committed to using was natural light or turning off lights when not in use, followed by unplugging appliances and devices not in use. And based off of my findings from the survey responses and my own experience during the year, I proposed 5 recommendations for future engagement efforts for the Sustainability Ambassadors Program. My first recommendation is to prioritize educating incoming and first-year students on CNI and campus sustainability resources. Climate change, CNI, campus initiatives, courses, and sustainability resources should be integrated and highlighted in orientation programs. While about 20% of the online CNI training participants were in their 4th year and nearing graduation, the training may have been the first time they had even heard of CNI or of other UCSD climate and energy initiatives. Students should be empowered with the information, the tools, and resources to support CNI goals and campus climate policies from the beginning of their studies so that they have time to pursue opportunities for engagement. My second recommendation is to utilize a diverse portfolio of communication channels, including official campus social media accounts and campus-wide emails to educate students on CNI. Survey responses indicated that social media and emails are effective communication channels and should be further leveraged. Boasting over 46,000 followers, the official UCSD Instagram account has the capacity to become an educational communication tool that increases awareness of campus initiatives and promotes sustainable behavior. Existing UCSD-related sustainability organizations should continue to maintain and develop their content, including the Sustainability Ambassador website and blog. From the survey, we saw that most respondents are alarmed or concerned with climate change. And according to a report on messaging strategies for global warming 6 Americas, these audiences are likely to want to learn about actions that mitigate climate change. Moreover, over 90% of participants believe that their personal actions and choices can help solve climate change. Therefore, I recommend centering CNI-related communications and education on local solutions that students can directly engage with and support. Moreover, we saw that over a third of the training participants were neutral toward the 2025 CNI target. This is a great opportunity to foster optimism and inform students on solutions so that they can provide rational critiques on UCSD's progress, but also be encouraged to directly contribute to enhancing its carbon neutrality efforts, such as volunteering with the Bioenergy Project, which tackles food waste on campus as pictured here. And in order to build coalition for support towards preferred energy policies and campus prioritization of climate action, CNI education and engagement efforts should expand beyond conversations about turning off the lights or using renewable energy. As my fourth recommendation, future efforts should demonstrate how CNI intersects with other prevalent issues such as social justice and health. Educational content should be developed and shared that focuses on the impacts of burning fossil fuels on air quality and emphasize the inequities that low-income communities of color face when addressing energy access and affordability. Future communications should also explore how carbon neutrality relates to history, art, law, and literature in order to engage a more diverse background of academic disciplines, as there were no humanities students who participated in my online training and survey. For my final recommendation, I suggest that future efforts focus on results-driven engagement through community-based social marketing, also known as CBSM. Currently, the focus is on sharing information, and while information-based campaigns are popular and convenient, they often have little to no effect on people's behavior, which is the ultimate goal. However, CBSM is an effective approach to fostering sustainable behavior as it involves direct contact among community members and the removal of structural barriers to sustainable behavior. The CBSM model suggests increasing visibility of positive behavior as a strategy. So by answering my question earlier in the chat about how you conserve energy, you all experience a small scale component of CBSM. And so thank you for participating in that. As I wrap up, I'd like to acknowledge my Capstone Advisory Committee, the Sustainability Ambassadors, and all the folks who've supported my project along the way. Thank you all for your support. And then before I take any questions, I'd like to end off by acknowledging the senseless killings of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and so many others due to systemic racism and police brutality. I stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, and I would like to highlight these two powerful and influential Black women, activist, eco-communicator, and close friend of mine, Leah Thomas, and marine biologist, policy expert, conservation strategist, and SIL alumna, Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. Both women have recently been using their voice to raise awareness about the intersections of race, climate action, and environmentalism. I'm extremely inspired by them as communicators who strive to protect the planet and all of its people. So I encourage you all to check out and support the work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tyler. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So we now have a couple minutes for Q&A to ask Tyler any questions. Again, if you have tuned in or are watching, please, you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A icon in which you can type in your questions. So the first one comes from Angelica Rodriguez, who says, very nice presentation. Does your work have any connection with the UCSD Green New Deal student work?
Thank you for that question. No, that's a great question. We have not really closely collaborated with the Green New Deal organization on campus. I did participate in some of the climate marches on campus during the fall quarter while I was training and recruiting the ambassadors. But because winter quarter, we were still just figuring out our own strategy and the way we were going about doing our presentations and workshops, that we didn't find any opportunities to collaborate. And then as we moved swiftly to online learning, it became more of a challenge, and we kind of honed in on what we can do on our own first. And so I'm hoping in the future that future student engagement fellows and the sustainability ambassadors can closely work with the UCSD Green New Deal. As I know, they do share, in particularly the second goal of the UCSD Green New Deal is to teach others about climate change. So I would love for future sustainability ambassadors to support that goal.
Wonderful. All right, last question. What do you think is the most effective way to educate and engage the student body? And the second part is, what do you think about mandating climate education in the school curriculum?
Oh, these are great questions. The most effective way of educating and engaging the student body, I feel like I said in my second recommendation, really it would be about utilizing a diverse portfolio of engagement and education strategies. So not all folks are interested in attending, a webinar or a lecture or taking a course on climate change. Some want to hear about it through social media. Others want to be engaged with it by actually volunteering or joining clubs. And we did ask in our survey, which I didn't highlight in this presentation, how students would like to engage, so we can kind of hone in on that. And the top choice was by joining clubs. The second was by doing research. And I believe the third had to do with just staying informed through emails and social media. And so I think moving forward, there's areas to explore in terms of what works best for our community. But I think with the ultimate goal of behavior change, I think implementing a CBSM framework could be useful for future ambassadors. And I totally support and I believe that we should mandate climate education in school curriculum. And I think it's exciting to see that there is a movement within, I think, the education sector as students as schools are working towards next generation science standards, that there's room to weave in more education about climate change, its causes, its impacts, and more particularly on the solutions and what they can do what students can do for actions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tyler. Really appreciated all of your input and expertise there.
Thank you, Risa.
Absolutely.